So the last time we talked, we were talking about doing our shapes going back into a vanishing point and then adding different lines, whether they be horizontal or vertical lines onto those shapes, and all of the rules about that. So we're going to take what we learned about this and we're going to learn how to do something called one-point perspective when we are drawing what looks like a town or a road going off into the distance. So this little worksheet works through it step by step, but I'm going to be doing it on this piece of paper too, so you can kind of follow along. This is just a practice, and this is going to show you how to do it so that you can then do it yourself for your actual project. So the first step, it says, is to draw a horizon line. So a horizon line is where the earth or the land meets the sky, or where the room floor meets the wall of the room. But you want to make a straight line on your paper, and that's a horizon line. Now, a lot of you guys don't understand how to make a straight line. If you have a ruler, you can line up your little zero line with the edge of your paper, and you can make sure one of these little lines lines up with the opposite edge of the paper. And if you hold it still, you should be able to get a straight line. Now we have to place a vanishing point. The vanishing point, like where we talked about previously, is where all of those lines are going to go back to. So you can choose to put this wherever you want. On this paper, it shows putting it right here. So that's what I'm going to do. Ooh, there's children outside being loud. Okay, that's my vanishing point. Next says to draw your shapes. So it looks like we're going to be drawing what looks like a tall building here and a little house here. So I always, when I draw my shapes, I always am going to use a ruler to do those lines, just to make sure things are straight. So it shows this rectangle right here overlapping the horizon line, because this building is going to be taller than the ground. It's going to be further away and it's going to be a taller building. This little house right here, we can see, is going to be closer to the viewer and not as tall. So taller things or things further away are going to generally overlap your horizon line. So let's draw our building shapes. So I'm going to put my rectangle building here. Now once you have your one line, you can actually use the lines on your ruler to keep everything straight on that line. So if I put like this 2 mark on, if I put the 0 mark on the edge of the paper and I measure this up with a line, then I know that my ruler is pretty straight there. You can use different parts of your ruler to keep everything straight for itself. Like I can line up a line on that top and then line up a line at the edge of my paper. And sometimes I go further, but I erase it later. And now that I have both of those lines, I can just use the ruler to connect. I don't have to really use the edge of my paper. I'm going to erase any little extra lines that I have. Okay, that's our first building. Then it shows us we've got like a little, you can't see it, I'm pointing to things you can't see. We have a little square down closer to the bottom of the paper, because things closer to the bottom of the paper are going to be closer to the viewer. So we're going to draw, probably just do a little square here. Doesn't have to be a perfect square. Try to keep it close, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Well, making sure everything's straight. Probably the hardest part, I think, about perspective is making sure all of your lines stay as straight as possible. Okay, so now we have, based on what this shows us, and this file is on Canvas, we have our rectangle and we have our square. Now it says drawing an X can help find the center, so that is true. So if you actually put your ruler corner to corner, draw the light lines because you're going to erase these at some point, but go corner to corner and then draw your line. That becomes the center of that shape. So we're going to decide how tall we want our roof to be. So it showed us finding center. We're going to decide how tall we want our roof to be. And I'm going to just make it about here. Making that line very, whoa, I didn't go through center. I went slightly to the right of center. That's okay because I'm erasing all this later anyway. Let's see. You want things to be straight, you want things to be centered. That's probably the hardest part of doing stuff like this. Maybe I got it right this time. Oh, I did, okay. So, now I've got my roof peak. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to connect the top of that little line I made to the corner of my square. Like that. Okay, that gives us the basis for our house. Now it's showing us here that we're going to draw lines from the corners to the vanishing point. And that's what we did on this. So we're basically just doing what we did here, except imagine that you had a horizon line right here. So that's a building going in the back. That would be like a house going backwards. Okay, so let's do that. Remember to check all of your corners. Okay, so let's start with this little house shape. I'm gonna put my ruler on my vanishing point, and I'm gonna put my ruler on the corner there. And I'm gonna draw light lines. I can always come back and make them darker, but it's harder to erase them. So we're gonna draw that line back. Check this corner. I feel like this corner is gonna go through the shape, so I'm not gonna do that corner. I'm gonna do this outside corner right here. Hope you guys can see that to the vanishing point. Okay, and I'm gonna do this bottom corner. Those are the only three corners that are gonna get done because these would cut through the building, so we're not doing those. Okay. Like I said, do light lines so that you can erase them. Now, I am going to erase this little line and all of this stuff in the square. Okay. Now that I've gotten my center, I know how tall I want things to be. I don't need all that anymore. The eraser on the back of this pencil is a pretty good eraser, but it's kind of floppy. It's a brand new pencil. These are Arteza pencils. Can you see that? Arteza. They are awesome pencils. You can find them on Amazon. They're probably my favorite pencil to use in the classroom. All right, now we're going to do this one. Okay? Checking all of our corners. Corner to vanishing point. Make sure you're holding your ruler down so it doesn't wiggle on you. I say that and then I'm going to do it. Yeah. Line to there. Let's look here. Corner to vanishing point. Line to there. Now let's look. That's going to go through the shape, so we're not going to do it. And that's going to go through the shape, so we're not going to do it. At this point, we have to decide then how far back our building is going to be. So it says decide how far back to place your parallel lines. So these buildings are obviously not just going to go all the way down the road as far away as possible. So we have to decide. So I think I'm going to I always put like a little notch. I think my building, this It's like an office building, so it's gonna be like long. So I think it's gonna be about there. So I'll put like a little mark. And remember, if we're gonna make anything horizontal, so if this were like a building popping up from a vanishing point, these would be horizontal lines. So anything going like this way on that shape has to be parallel with that line of the original shape. So I'm gonna put my ruler here and scoot it to my little mark, and I'm gonna draw a line. And that's how long back my building's gonna go. At this point, I can then erase what's left going to the vanishing point after I did my little line, my little parallel line. I can erase this bottom part too. Okay, we just got this little floating shape. And now I can erase the part of the horizon line that goes through my shape. Okay, that's the first part, and now we're going to do it with our little house here. So everything's parallel, remember? So if I'm going to draw a line, I'm going to figure out how far back I want the house to be. Houses are relatively small. I'm going to slide it, make a little mark right here. Slide my ruler back to that little mark. Draw my parallel line. So that's great. I can erase this bottom line for sure. I still need this top line because I have to do this roof. I'm going to tilt my ruler to be parallel with the side of that roof. I'm going to slide my ruler back till it hits the line that I just drew. And I'm going to go up. And then I can erase these lines. Pretty cool. I have a house and some kind of an office building. In part 2, we're going to talk about adding details to our buildings and adding a road.